Good afternoon, Commissioner. We'll get this going here in just a sec. Going here in just a sec. Here in just a sec.
Should I say no audio?
No, I'm turning on.
Okay.
It says it's fired up.
He says he'll be on at the start. That's what the secretary said. His mom had surgery this morning and he didn't know how long before she got out of the recovery room. He said he might be late, but now he says he should be there at the start.
Showing the back, showing that's now. I can't monitor the live stream over. Filling out the pad.
Why is he, what did he just do?
He apparently turned on a Teams meeting instead of
Okay.
face to. Yeah, since your invite specifically said we go to and not Teams. All right, I've got the screen sharing turned off for right now. Resend Pat his link real quick.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello. We're gonna get going here in a sec.
Okay, just wanted to make sure I was connected. This is Steve Deckard.
Okay, sure, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Vicky. I don't think you can't see me, right?
No, ma'am. Your
Okay.
camera right now is off.
Well, I've got a brand new computer, so I'm going to try to get somebody down here to get me to try to find me here because it says I'm sharing my webcam, but I obviously I'm not. Thank you.
Commissioners, we're getting everything started here in just a sec. We'll let you know.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Schmidt, your webcam's on now.
We just can't figure out where the camera's pointing. Okay, we're going to get this, but I think it's coming off of my laptop instead of my. Oh, yeah, that's my shirt. Okay.
Okay.
We'll continue to work on it here. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Yeah. Somehow or other, it's over here when I share my webcam instead of over here. But okay, which way you want to go? Well, you're trying
Morning,
to
this is
do.
Adam Profit. Can anybody hear me?
Where's the meeting at?
She's muted, but if you click on share my webcam, right there, the meeting will come on for her.
But I don't.
Oh,
There we go. Okay, but now I can't see them. How can I see them? Yeah, see, it's on this it's on this thing. I want it over there. Can we close this?
Morning, this is Adam Profit. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, Adam, I can hear you. This is Frank.
You're gonna switch.
Okay, thank you.
Where's it?
We kind of switch.
Hit under that webcam, so see.
You can see them now.
All righty. I want to, before I open up the official meeting, can I get this will be like an unofficial roll, see if commissioners are on. Let me start with staff. Jennifer Flory, are you on? Anybody from the SEAC office on?
You down?
Yes, we're on.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And my apologies, I'm on by phone. I can't get my go-to webinar to work on my laptop here, so I can't see anybody. Why don't we just go ahead and open up the meeting then? It's 9:34 a.m. on September 30th. I will call this meeting to order. And if folks can bear with me, I'm virtual and I'm flying blind. As I said, I'm on the phone. This is Commissioner Profit. So we will take roll really quickly. Commissioner Kane, are you on?
Hang on, I can see.
I'm on the phone.
Okay, Commissioner Decken, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Commissioner Hensley?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Twice, actually, yes, we could hear you.
Great.
Commissioner Langweir? Commissioner Langweir on? Not hearing. And I was told Commissioner McGinn would not be here, but I'll take her name anyway. Commissioner McGinn. Okay. Commissioner Schmidt. Commissioner Schmidt, are you on?
Yes, I'm here on audio, but not visual. Thank you.
Very good. Okay. And the chair is here, so we do have a quorum. So we will go ahead and get moving. Again, I apologize for the virtual meeting. We just needed a little bit more time to get to this action item for today for the team to work through some things. So first order of business is approval of the minutes. Commissioners, the minutes were sent to you in the original packet last week. Are there any edits or comments on the minutes? Hearing none,
This is
I would
Steve
welcome a motion to. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Sorry, I jumped in. I was going to say I moved to approve the minutes as presented.
Very good. We've had a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Seconded.
Sounds like Commissioner Hensley with a second. Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Minutes are approved.
Okay, thank you.
Alrighty, Commissioners, the only agenda item for today's meeting is to review the bids for the actuarial and consulting contract until we select a vendor for the next contract period. Again, you should have received the materials originally a week or a week and a half ago, and then there was an updated deck that was sent late last week that has some updated information as it relates to some of the negotiations that are occurring with the legal team and some of the red lines there. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Director Flory to walk us through the deck. And once we are at that point, we will open it up for discussion. So, Director.
Thank you. We are having some difficulty right now with getting the legal staff on. So trying to, we sent the link to them, but they keep trying to join by Teams. And this is a webinar. So anyway, on to the actuarial and consultant bid. Next slide, Pete. This is just an overview of some of the services that we receive under this bid, which include they prepare the financial management reports, they do forecasting and rate setting for us. They work with us on benefits and plan design and talk with us about cost impacts of potential changes. They are a significant part of our compliance team in assisting us with adhering to federal and state laws as well as federal reporting requirements, which, as most of you know, have continued to become more and more difficult and more challenging to adhere to. They assist us with requests for proposals. In particular, they are an integral part of the evaluation of our TPAs for medical and dental insurance by doing those cost analysis of the network discounts so that we can estimate the impact of a particular choice, as well as they are part of our PBM team. They work with us in the development of the PBM bid documents, as well as doing a cost analysis of the discounts of the vendors submitting bids for our PBMs. They're involved in actuarial reporting. They do our GASB report, as well as assist us with the ACA testing, as well as mental health parity, compliance, fiscal notes, IBNR. So they provide us with a lot of assistance with regard to those actuarially required documents. And they assist us in our health and wellness program. They're part of the team that work on the bids for the health center wellness bid to assist us in providing our members with the best possible services under those contracts. Next slide. We submitted the bid and we did receive 4 bids. Those included a bid from Mercer Health Benefits, Milliman Inc., our incumbent, the single corporation, as well as Willis Towers Watson, often referred to in the slides as WTW. We held finalist meetings with all 4 vendors. Next slide, Pete. As we were evaluating the bids, we were looking at their ability to provide the requested services. We do try to have a comprehensive list of services so that we get costs for those services and don't have to do addendums for additional services. We looked at their experience in providing actuarial and consulting for public employers and groups of similar size to the state employee health plan. We looked at their expertise in working on all aspects of the state employee health plan, their consulting service offerings, their availability to meet with staff for regular meetings. We do have regular meetings with the actuary and consulting staff. They assist us with developing project timelines, and as we discussed previously, are very important to us in the evaluation of our RFPs and developing those documents. Our pharmacy program relies heavily on the actuarial and consulting bid. They assist us not only in evaluating the RFP, but also in evaluating any formulary changes that are being proposed by our PBM. All of those have to be reviewed by state to determine that they are in the best interests of the state before we will accept those. And then involved with us on compliance, they help us with updates, reporting, and research involving changes that are coming down in the compliance world. Again, a lot of these are coming at the federal level instead of the state level, so we need assistance in making sure that we are providing the necessary information on those compliance and reporting requirements. Next slide. Some of the key services, again, support to the Healthcare Commission as well as the State Employee Health Plan staff, their actuarial and financial projections, their ability to model plan designs and develop plan rates. They assist us in providing fiscal notes as well as legislative support on requests we receive regarding the State Employee Health Plan. Assistance with our RFPs, our GASB 45, and our ACBAR reporting. These are governmental entity requirements which we do require and need assistance in preparing. Compliance updates and mental health parity, the Addiction Equity Act and the PIA reporting. And we're going to talk a little more about those in a little bit. Moving forward. Here's a breakdown of the best and final rates we received from the different vendors. You can see we've shown you, we do request a monthly fee. This is a monthly capitated rate for the services that are outlined in the RFP. We provided you in the second column the annual cost for each one of those vendors for plan year 2025, then in the next column 2026, and in the next column 2027. You'll notice under Milliman in the next column the utilization benchmarking report. This is typically done once every 3 years, and there is an additional $45,000 charge under Milliman for those services. Under Willis Towers Watson, you'll notice under costs not included in the monthly retainer. Again, we did request a specific set of services for that monthly retainer. Willis Towers Watson came back with additional fees for many of those services. And in the last column, you will see the annual rates for each one of those vendors. Secretary, would you like to stop here and discuss these, or do you want me to move forward and talk about the additional items?
I think, can you hear me okay, Director?
Yes.
Okay, I think it would be probably ideal if you just go ahead and round out the story and discuss the additional items.
Okay, we will do so. Pete, let's move forward. So with the bids that we received from the 4 vendors, there were a number of contractual issues where the vendors had redlined. As part of our standard bid documents, we include all of the standard reporting documents such as the DA 146 for procurement. We include the contract as well as the business associate agreement as part of the documents. Siegel accepted those documents with no redlining. The other 3 vendors had significant redlining, and there was ongoing conversations with them to try to resolve those red lines. Here you can see this is an update that we sent out to the commissioners on Friday. It shows you where we currently stand, what the bid proposals are from the 3 that had red lines. Milliman has resolved all of their red lines except for those dealing with liability. They have offered a liability cap of $5 million for their services arising out of the contract and $25 million for any security breaches. And it might be helpful to know that as part of their work dealing with those RFPs, these vendors will receive claims data, which includes PHI, and that's why this is a concern, is because they're in their systems as part of that repricing, they actually have our claims data. Mercer has resolved their contract red lines, again, except for those dealing with liability. They have offered a $5 million cap for services arising out of the contract and a $5 million liability cap for any breaches in security of the confidentiality, security incident, data breach, or other privacy-related incidents. With Willis Towers Watson, they have resolved all of their red lines except for those dealing with the liability. They have offered a $5 million cap for services arising out of the contract and an $11 million super cap for breaches in security of confidential information, data, and other privacy-related incidents. They have an unlimited liability for negligence, which results in personal injury. Next slide, Pete. So each one of the vendors were asked about their abilities to support the state employee health plan in compliance with the Mental Health Parity and Addiction Equity Act. There are 2 main components of the Mental Health Parity Act that deal with quantitative treatment guideline limits and non-quantitative treatment limits. Siegel is the only one of the vendors that they not only included this as part of their cost, but they also agreed to provide the services, because if the state is asked for a report by the feds, we have to be able to provide that document to them. For both quantitative treatment allowances limitations as well as the non-quantitative treatment limitations. The NQTLs were recently, the final regs were just released on those within the last 2 weeks. So there's still quite a lot of unknown about that, but it is a requirement that the state does have to be able to meet. Mercer has indicated they are not able to provide comparative analysis for the Mental Health Parity Act. Mercer has indicated they're not a law firm, therefore their clients basically will have to hire someone else to assist them with compliance with the Mental Health Parity Act. Milliman has indicated they will assist us with compliance related to quantitative treatment limit components, but they have not included assistance with the non-quantitative treatment limits. They would provide us with information, but they would not provide the actual assistance in preparing the NQTL document. Willis Towers Watson, these services are not included in their monthly retainer, but they would provide them for an additional fee, one-time fee of $130,000. Next slide. Mercer and Willis Towers Watson did not provide assistance with GASB. If either of those vendors were selected, the state would have to go out and find another company to provide that assistance, as that is not something that staff can do internally. Willis Towers Watson has also included additional fees for some of the required services. And I believe on the next slide, Pete, we're going to show you what those look like. So you can see there's that fee for assistance with the Mental Health Parity Act, RFP drafting, PBM assistance, the PBM market check. All of those have an additional fee in order for Willis Towers Watson's bid. They also have additional fees related to performing any assistance with the dental contract, audits, HealthQuest Clinic RFP, or the Wellbeing Platform. And that was that $1 million that you saw on the previous comparison of the bids. Next slide. We also asked each one of the vendors if we were to receive a request or had a need for services which we had not included as part of our standard bid requirements, for them to provide us with their hourly fees that they would charge for assistance in doing those things. Again, an example of this is when we were audited by the federal government related to mental health parity. We did not have that included as part of our bid back at that time. And so we did have to pay an additional fee to Siegel for assistance in preparing those required documents in relationship to that audit. But these are the rates that the bidders have included as part of their best and final should we need additional assistance with some unidentified project that could happen in the future. Is that the last slide, Pete, or do we have one more? Okay, with that, we've come to the last slide, and we'd be more than happy to answer questions. I don't know if our legal counsel, Tracy Deal, is the one that worked directly with the vendors. I'm not sure if he's joined.
He's on his end. So he can't. Don't worry, you can talk.
Okay, can we send him?
I have to turn the screen off.
Oh,
to do that, since I've only got one.
Okay.
All right, well, we will do the best we can. Our attorney is on as a participant only. There is a phone link that was sent to him, I believe.
Yeah.
So Tracy, if you could look at the original invite, there's actually a call-in number.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate you reviewing the information with us. I think it might be, if we're going to keep the deck up, maybe either go back to cost proposal, contractual limitations, or the MAPIA. Any one of the three, I think, would be a good starting point. I anticipate that's where a lot of the discussion will focus today. So with that, commissioners, if we can kind of chime in one at a time here, I think it'd be helpful since we're not able to see each other. Any questions or comments on the presentation? It looks to me as if everybody is muted, so make sure you unmute yourself if you have any questions or comments.
I think he's gonna. This is fine. This is not good. I can't.
This is Steve Decken. Do you hear me?
Yes, Commissioner Decken.
I guess a general question I got is, are all of the costs that would likely be incurred by the state, by the plan, included in that cost proposal page? I
Yes.
look at the exclusions. Jumping down to vendor responses, I'll just as an example, it talks about Mercer and Willis Tower not providing GASB reporting. So how do we cover that cost or that element, or is there a cost associated with it or a staff time? And then the comment there also about Willis Tower has additional fees. I guess you did include those in that $1 million total list. But I'm just wondering if there's any, like the Mercer and Willis Tower not providing GASB reporting. That would cost us something extra to have someone else do it, correct?
That's correct. It would require us to probably go out for bid because likely that would be more than the $5,000. So we would have to issue an RFP and find another actuarial firm to complete those services. So the services listed on the cost proposal slide are for the services that we requested in section 4 of the RFP, with the exceptions of those items that we outlined on the page dealing with the GASB and the mental health parity and the additional fees that that Willis Towers Watson has are included at that $1 million, $1,007,000.
Then in the slide above or between or above the vendor responses is the one vendor responses on MHPA EA. Let's see here, where does it say? I'll jump to Milliman. It says that they, I guess, do not provide non-quantitative treatment limitations.
Right.
So again, what kind of impact will that would that have?
We would, if requested to provide that document, we would have to hire someone to do that. So it would require us to likely issue another RFP to get someone to assist us with that, because our experience in trying to do the quantitative treatment limits, we found that even with our vendors, they were not sufficiently qualified to be able to prepare the necessary documents. And so that's why when we had the audit, we had to go and we actually had to issue a contract amendment with Siegel for an additional service in order to provide that. So we would have to find a vendor that would be willing to assist us in preparing that document.
So did you just say even Siegel can't provide this, or is it that Siegel will go out and find the vendor at their own cost?
Siegel would provide that. It was included in their bid.
Okay. That's all for now from me.
Very good, thank you. And Commissioner Deck and I had the same questions, you know, as it relates specifically to the MAPIA. You know, it sounds like Milliman would handle the quantitative treatment, but not the non-QTLs. And as Director Flory mentioned, that's relatively new. In my head, I'm not suggesting this is a firm number, but in my head, as I'm trying to get an apples to apples on the cost proposals, you know, I look at one of the vendors replied with a cost of $130,000 for that. So I guess in my head, I assume that in the neighborhood of that is what the incremental cost would be, should we go with somebody who doesn't have that as part of the base. Jennifer, do you, under the current contract, are there any limitations on liability? Do we have caps on liability, or is it unlimited liability, both on the general liability as well as security breaches?
There are no caps under the current contract, and Siegel has not proposed any caps on the new contract, if awarded.
Any other questions or comments from any other commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, this is Vicki.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was wondering on that 130,000 though for WTW, that looks like that would be that looks like their estimate. First of all, is that for the 3 years of coverage of the NQTLs and the QTLs?
I don't know.
It said it was a one-time fee.
Okay.
So it would be for the 3 years.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off. And then, but on on Milliman, they would provide the QTL. So I don't think the cost would be that much, would not be 130,000 for the NQTLs if we just kind of look at that broadly. I guess I'm kind of, I'm very curious as to why Siegel did not provide an hourly rate for special projects, because we've seen their hourly rates before. They've given those to us freely. Why is it $360? Because that seems very, very low to me.
So that was the bid that they provided, was that for special projects that their hourly rate would be $360.
Did we go back to them and ask them what they would charge for actuarial analysis versus actuaries versus principals versus pharmacists versus associates, et cetera, et cetera? Did we go back to them and ask them for a more detail?
We did not.
Can you maybe speak to why?
Well, their hourly rate is lower in most cases than the others for similar services.
Well, I don't know that without knowing what they charge for their principals. I doubt if their principals work for $3.60 an hour.
That's what they bid, and that's what they would be allowed to charge. We would not allow them to charge more because it was a principal. Because they bid $3.60, they are stuck with that number for service.
But on the other hand, we haven't had any special projects during our current 3-year practice or contract.
No, because as we do with all RFPs, we continually work on them and continually add services and update them. So we try to include all of the services as part of the standard contract so that we do not have to use the additional hourly rates for special projects. It has come up on occasion. NAPIA was one. I believe when we worked on one of the school districts, the legislature used our contract in order to do an evaluation of whether or not it would be a good idea to bring school districts under the state employee health plan. So over time, and we also used it on the PANS and PANDAS because the legislative committee asked for information which was kind of outside of the expertise of staff because they were looking at things like the social impact of treating PANS and PANDAS, which was not an area where we were comfortable in providing responses. Siegel did assist on that project as well.
So I guess, you know, Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to kind of talk about that PANS and PANDAS work. That estimate that Siegel gave us was totally, well, it was inflated beyond measure. I guess that's part of my problem with awarding a contract to Siegel. I've been disappointed several times over the past several years in their performance. They've given us some inaccurate reports. They've given us some superfluous data, and quite frankly, I think they've given us some misguided recommendations. So I think that they have provided suboptimal information in the past, and you know, even like I know, Mr. Chairman, you had to request not once, not twice, but I think 3 times for the IBNR and claim fluctuation reserve not to be included, even though we were under a legislative mandate to go a different way with that. And I just have been a little bit disappointed in that. And also, I'm getting some emails from people saying that the YouTube stream has never started for people trying to listen in.
Commissioner, this is Pete from the finance team here. You know, we're aware of the YouTube. We're working on getting that fixed right now.
Okay, thank you.
I can't get into the.
All right, Commissioner Schmidt, point well taken. This is Chairman Profit. Point well taken on the your lack of enthusiasm on the what's been presented previously with our current vendor. To clarify my comment earlier on the using the 130,000 as a plug for what it could look like for MAPIA, I'm not suggesting that is the actual cost. In my head, I was just trying to come up with a rough estimate of what maybe a worst case scenario would be on a partial increase on the NQTL, or excuse me, the MAPIA to cover the NQTL that's not covered today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I had the same thought that, you know, I mean, I wouldn't think that the vendors would be that much different if we had to go outside to get a NQTL. So thank you for that. Yep,
absolutely. So I'm going to jump in with a few comments that I've got here. You know, as I review the costs, in my estimation, I'm just going to put my thought process out there. It looks like my thought process is, you know, Milliman and Siegel clearly have the most appealing looking cost estimates in here, the projections. One thing I've gone back and forth with on myself is on the contractual limitations specific to the liability caps. You know, I guess in my head, is it for $70,000 a year, are we better off purchasing, for lack of better terms, unlimited liability, or are we comfortable if we're going just with the lower of the costs and looking at performance in the past? Are we comfortable having a $5 million cap on general liability and $25 million on security breach? I look at the size of the program and what an egregious error could cause for the program. 5 million seems low, but I know that our legal team went back and forth with each of the vendors, and they worked hard to get to where they're at there. So I'm a little unsettled by that, but obviously trying to take into consideration how often a need would arise for a general liability. Any other questions or comments from any other commissioners? I want to make sure I'm giving ample time here. Anybody else? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can't hear me?
Yes. Is that Commissioner Deckent?
Yes, this is Steve Deckett. Kind of a follow-up to some of your comments, Mr. Chair, and I had the same thought that really was coming down to Milliman and Siegel in terms of looking at the total bid, with the other two being so far or so much greater in cost. Unlike Commissioner Schmidt, I've not had the amount of angst with Siegel. Not that I consider everything they've done to be perfect and spot on, but I've not had the same amount of angst. So I don't have that in part of my thinking process. The liability that you mentioned, Mr. Chair, I share that concern. It's one of those things you don't know until it happens, and then you find out either in a bad way or a good way if there's enough coverage to cover whatever might happen. I put stock, and again, from my perspective, that I'm not dissatisfied with Siegel in having the experience with them, and they be hitting the ground running and knowing exactly what's going on, and I think that has some value to it. Also, I'm a little unsettled that we've got some exclusions, and I don't know if there may not be something that will come up down the road that might be an exclusion that was not thought of or whatever, but that for the difference of $150,000, I don't think changing horses is worth the $150,000 we'd save over the total 3-year contract, and so I'm certainly in favor of retaining Siegel.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Deckent. And just for clarity for the balance of the commission, what I see is the difference in pricing is okay. 153. Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Vicki Schmidt. I was wondering, on the RFP under 4.3 was RFP consulting services, and 4.301 in the RFP that I saw, it said in-person attendance will be required for this bid. Attendance may be by phone or video conference if approved in advance by SEHP staff. So is in-person attendance going to be required by this consulting firm, or is this going to be an option that SEHP staff will be able to tell them that they can attend by phone or video conference?
Was it a question for me, Commissioner?
Sorry, I muted myself. Yes, I guess, I mean, it's a question. The RFP, I don't think was very clear about that. And I think that for this kind of money a month, in-person attendance ought to be required when we're meeting in person. So I'm wondering if that will be worked into it, that it won't be at the discretion of a SEHP staff if the consultant is able to come in by phone or video. I just want to make sure that that's in the final contract with whoever wins the bid.
Yeah, I understand the concern. I would agree that I think it's critically important that this type of vendor is on site for each of the meetings. I guess I would commit to you that, to the extent that the contract says the default is in person unless authorized by SEHP staff, as Secretary of Administration, my direction would be that, the consultant should be on site for each and every one of the meetings. We can certainly look at making sure that it makes its way into the contract, but short of contractual changes, my commitment is so long as I sit in this chair that I will be asking this vendor to be on site. Does that allay your concerns, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? I'm not hearing any, so if there is no other discussion, and there'll be another chance after a motion is made and seconded, I think we're at the point where we are open for a motion, should somebody have one.
Mr. Chair, this is Steve Decken.
Commissioner Decken.
I move that we award the 3-year contract for actuarial and consulting services contract to Siegel.
Okay, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
I'd second it.
Commissioner Hensley, it sounded like, with a second. Okay, so the motion on the table is to award the 3-year contract for the actuarial consultant to Siegel as presented. Any discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Schmidt.
this is Vicki Schmidt. I would like to make a substitute motion that the award go to a 3-year award go to Milliman.
Okay, we have a substitute motion, same award, same contract, but this time to Milliman as presented. Is there a second for the substitute? Make sure I allow folks time to get off mute if that's what the issue is. Is there a second for the substitute? Hearing none, I believe the substitute motion would fail on lack of second. So then we would be back on the original motion. Any further discussion on the original motion, which again is to Siegel as presented? Okay, I'm not hearing any discussion. So we will move to vote. Commissioner Kane.
Aye.
Commissioner Decken.
Aye.
Commissioner Hensley.
Aye.
Commissioner Landwehr, did you make it on? Not hearing. Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I vote no, and I'd like to explain my vote.
Okay, we will explain once we're done. Commissioner McGinn, you're still not on, are you? Okay, only 3, so chair will vote. Chair votes aye as well. So I show 4 votes as aye and 1 vote nay. Motion carries. Commissioner Schmidt, would you like to explain your vote?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would, and I will get this to Director Flory. I vote no on today's vote to award another expensive $1 million actuary and consulting contract. I vote no because some of the services to be provided could and should be performed by the state employee health plan staff. And as I've stated before, the contract solicitation and negotiation processes are suboptimal. I maintain that HCC commissioners or a subset thereof should have a seat at the negotiation table and a vote on the final specifications of an RFP. Specifically, I vote against awarding the contract to Siegel. My disagreements and disappointments with our current vendor are in the record of previous HCC proceedings, but as HCC awards them another contract, I reiterate that they have, over several years, provided inaccurate, incomplete, and confusing reports, littered the material meetings with superfluous data, and proffered misguided recommendations on the fiscal management of our state and employees' health care dollars. I urge my fellow commissioners, and as 2 new members will join us after the first of the year with the new legislature, to increase our vigilance and accountability for this and all of our vendors. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, if you can have those comments over to Director Flory in the next couple of days so that we can have them in the materials for the next meeting, that would be helpful. Just as a matter of record, I would note my opposition to the commission being involved in any negotiations with RFP, similar to how legislative committees are set up and have staff run procurement and issues like that. That is how we have staff set up here. The SEHP staff is part of their job to negotiate RFPs and work the administrative functions. Our position as a commission is to set policy and ensure that the benefits are there for the state employees. I would note my opposition for the record to the HCC getting involved in RFPs to that magnitude, rather than as an advisory commission to review and to award.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Schmidt.
Thank you. I don't have any problem with your opposition. It's fine. But what I did wonder is, you know, I was a little, well, I'll let you close the vote, and then I would like to make a comment or I have a question if possible.
Okay, the vote is closed. It was 4-1, and we heard the explanation. So go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't want to get out of order. You know, I guess I was a little perplexed by, we got the original material a week ahead of time, more than a week ahead of time. And I know that I was only in the office last week. I was in a conference last week, Tuesday through Friday. And then Friday, we get another packet with page 14 changed, saying that they had still been under negotiation. How would we as HCC Commission, how would we have known that negotiations were still taking place after we received that first packet? Because we weren't notified of that. And quite frankly, I was surprised by that.
If you can give me one moment here, please. I'm trying to find something.
Sure.
This is Steve Decken. While the chair is looking, I don't have the first email to me, but I recall there being kind of an indication that there might be some follow-up material. So I got the impression from Director Flory's email that there was probably something going on yet. So I wasn't surprised by the second email that came in late last week.
Thank you, Commissioner. And that is what I was looking for. The original email that was sent to the commissioners did have on that page that it had the dates set up that legal was going to have additional calls with each of the vendors. So the dates with each of the vendors were listed in there for additional information that would be forthcoming. It did not say explicitly we will send another, but it did say that there were additional meetings forthcoming, and that's where the follow-up came.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that we get the documents, but then there's still negotiations going on. And then I always wonder, what is that? You know, we're not part of that negotiation. So what does that mean? Are we sharing data with, are we sharing amounts with them? Are we sharing, I mean, there wasn't any indication that it was on contractual limitations. And, you know, I know Milliman went up from $15 million for security breaches to $25 million. Was that because they were told that Siegel had no liability cap? I mean, these are questions that I have. I mean, what kind of information would be shared after the best and final offer? Because I've always been told that the best and final offer is just that, and that you never go back. But then I see this indication that Milliman changed their best and final offer. And so how did that happen?
Yeah, so I guess, Commissioner, I trying to choose my words carefully. Staff followed procurement procedures. Staff had follow-up conversations with them. Staff had concerns with the initial information that was sent. And through the course of discussion with each of them, no information with each of the other vendors' bids were shared with each other vendors, to meaning Milliman was not given any information from Mercer or WTW or Siegel. So if that is what you're asking, the answer is no. Legal is involved in those. They follow procedure guidelines to a T, and they get the best information they possibly can for the state. Again, I would reiterate my position that it is not the commission's position to jump in the middle of those and have those conversations. That is what staff is there for. We have a talented staff at ACHP. We also have talented legal counsel in the office of the secretary, and they are involved in those discussions. They follow procurement guidelines. So that is how we came up with the new information. Okay, moving on to discussion items. You'll note in your packets there, item number 3, potential 2025 HCC meeting dates. We've listed several dates throughout the months of each of the quarters that we intend to meet. My request of each of the commissioners would be to look at your calendars, and at our next meeting, which is December 10th, we will set the commission dates for the entirety of calendar year 2025. We did try to keep specifically the month of February on Fridays, as those tend to be lighter legislative days. So with the new legislative members that'll be coming on 2025, we want to make sure we give them every opportunity to join. If there are any concerns with any of those dates, please email staff and let them know ahead of time so we can have robust discussion on that at the next meeting. Are there any other questions or comments from any commissioners? Hearing none, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved. This is Commissioner Kane.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Sounded like Commissioner Deckent. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.